Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We appreciate you taking time out of your day or evening to join us. My name is Sherry Sullivan, and I'm with the AWS marketing team here in Seattle. I'm pleased to host today's webinar where you'll hear from AWS and Optaros, one of our advanced consulting partners, who will share their expertise delivering digital commerce for global marketers. Let's get started with just a few housekeeping items. The duration of today's webinar will be approximately 1 hour. The lines have been muted. However, we will take Q&A at the end of this webinar. We also invite you to ask your questions via Twitter at #AWS Optaros. We'd like to remind you that today's webinar is being recorded, and we will provide a link at the end of today's session. In addition, you may visit us at AWS channels on YouTube and SlideShare for the slide decks and the webinars on demand. Today's session begins with Simone Bruzzoni, with one of our AWS technology evangelists. Simone will provide you with an overview of e-commerce on the AWS cloud, followed by Kevin Carlson, who is a Senior Director at Optaros, and Kevin will share a deep dive on best practices for running e-commerce in the cloud. So without further delay, I'd like to turn it over to Simone. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I hope that you can hear me well. I'm actually in San Francisco today, so I'm remotely connected. And today I will talk about doing e-commerce with Amazon Web Services. Of course, we're going to have a Q&A session. We're going to accept questions also from Twitter. If you are on Twitter, I'm Simon on Twitter. You can just send me a direct message or mention me on Twitter, and then I will read the most relevant questions and try to answer them along the way. Everybody can confirm that you can hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, good. So first of all, Amazon.com is a big company that does many things, and you are probably very familiar with many of those things, such as the Kindle or the cloud players or Cloud Drive and other things. But of course, Amazon, we like to divide it into three main categories or three main columns or branches. The first one is the consumer business, the one that you know the best, the one where you go and shop and buy things. We have a second branch, a second part of Amazon, which is called the seller business. And in this particular case, we enable third parties to sell their items and their products through Amazon.com. And then we have a third branch, what we call the Amazon Web Services. And essentially here we are providing cloud computing services to our customers. So one question might be, how did Amazon, which used to be a small bookstore online and then turned into a big online retail, how did Amazon get into cloud computing? Of course, there are many reasons for this, and essentially Amazon invested a lot of time, effort, and money in developing a distributed service-oriented architecture. And after a few years of doing this, we realized that this could be a good value proposition for our customers, and then we decided to offer those services to the public. And the main benefits of cloud computing, and sometimes people refer to this as utility computing, is that you get resources on demand. You pay those resources as you go. For example, if you rent a server now and you use it only for a few hours, you would only pay for a few hours for that server. There's no initial investment, no commitment, no termination fees. So that's why some people refer to this as utility computing. It's available and it's also distributed, which means it allows you to build high availability architectures by running multiple machines across multiple data centers, even if you want across multiple regions in the world. And it's uniform in the sense that we provide a general purpose platform that comprises multiple building blocks. You can take those building blocks and then use them as you want it. For example, you might say, I need some servers, so you will use what we call Amazon EC2. I need some storage. You can use Amazon S3. And then maybe you need a content distribution for the content of your website. In that case, you would use Amazon CloudFront. And you don't need to use the other services if you don't want to. So you pick those as if they were Lego blocks, and then you assemble them together to create the architecture that you want. So a few words on Amazon EC2, since it's one of the most popular web services that we provide. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, and it provides you with virtual servers on demand of different sizes and different performance types. For example, the small machine has 1.7 gigabytes of RAM, has only one compute unit, and you can go up to the quadruple extra large machines, also optionally with GPU support. And in that case, we're talking about a very powerful machine. You requisition those machines on demand, and of course, there are many other ways to save money by using reserved instances or spot instances, but we are going to talk about this later on. The second service that is very popular is Amazon S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, and as the name implies, it allows you to store files on the internet. Those files by default are private, but of course you can make them public and use them, for example, even to host a simple static website if you want to. We release a few metrics about our business, and one of the most interesting stats is actually the one that relates to Amazon S3. In S3, we have objects. Objects are the equivalent of files, and every object is replicated multiple times across multiple data centers. So if you look at the number of objects that we store in Amazon S3 on behalf of our customers, we recently, on June 12, 2012, so about 4 months ago, we surpassed the 1 trillion mark. So we now have more than 1,000 billion objects stored on Amazon S3, and we reach peaks of more than 750,000 transactions per second. This gives you an idea of how big the scale of Amazon Web Services is. And S3 is also designed for durability. We always struggle to name all the nines in this number here. So we offer a durability of 99.999999999%, or 11 nines. This roughly equates to, if you have 1 million files, of losing one file every 100,000 years on average. So it's a pretty impressive durability option. And what Amazon Web Services excels at is really that it allows you to turn on and off your cloud resources. And of course, when you stop those resources, when you stop a server, or when you delete files, you actually stop paying for them. Let's quickly talk about security now. Because given this is a remote service, given that you cannot touch those machines with your hands, most of the time, especially at first glance, people are usually worried about security, and they have a lot of questions about security. So I'm happy to share with you that we have many certifications and compliance in place, and those are, of course, to make customers trust the security mechanisms that we have in place. So, for example, the SAS 70 Type 2 or the ISO 27001 certifications, those are audited by third parties, and the audits are, of course, continuous. So we get audited every 2 weeks or every few months, depending on the type of certification. And in particular, which should be relevant for this specific audience, we are also the first cloud provider to become PCI DSS Level 1 compliant, which is, of course, related to online payments. As I was mentioning earlier, we have a worldwide reach. We have so far 8 regions in the world. One of these regions is called GovCloud, and it's specific for government agencies. The other 7 regions are open to any customer of AWS, and we have 3 of them in the US, 1 in South America, 1 in Europe, 1 in Singapore, and 1 in Japan. And every one of those regions offers multiple data centers, and we map those data centers into what we call availability zones. And we do so because we want to allow customers to design and architect their infrastructure for high availability and take advantage of the physical isolation and the redundant